Good morning, readers. Today for Reading Workshop, we're working on session 12, which is all about adding background information to deepen our understanding of the historical fiction books that we're reading. So on Thursday, you learned that readers of historical fiction often study images, which can be photographs or illustrations, that come from the time period of the books that they're reading in order to give them a little bit more understanding of that time period that they may not be so familiar with before reading the book. You really thought about if the images that you found and the research that you did added to your understanding of the book that you're reading. And hopefully you found that it did. Today, readers, I want to remind you that historical fiction readers don't limit themselves to just the book that they're reading at the moment. They ask questions as they read when things don't seem familiar or when they want to learn more. And they gather resources, including nonfiction books, websites, and any images or photographs that add background information to deepen their comprehension and their understanding of both the story that they're reading and the time period that they're reading about. So, readers, we've been reading Number the Stars, and there have been many things that I've found interesting that I've wanted to learn more about. And I've actually read several books about this time period because I find it very interesting and I love historical fiction. But one part that stuck with me that I kept going back to is the handkerchief that Amory brings to Uncle Henrik. In the book, we learn a little bit about it and how it's important, but I was really curious to learn more. So I went online and I found this article about how did the Danes fool the Nazis and their dogs. And it talked about how the Danes were actually able to smuggle thousands of Jewish people across the sea to Sweden and save their lives. Local fishermen, just like Uncle Henrik, were really able to do this. And it was so interesting because the Danish resistance actually used scientists who were able to figure out that this combination of materials in the handkerchiefs were actually able to eliminate the dog sense of smell, and they weren't able to tell that there were people on board these ships, and they were able to save so many lives. And I thought it was fascinating that this wasn't a detail that was just in this book. This was actually something that really happened and saved so many of these lives. And that's one of the cool things about historical fiction is that they're based on true events. So many of the things actually happened in history. And I found this a fascinating part of Number of the Stars. So there are a lot of different websites that you can search. On Thursday, we gave you some specific sites that were based on your historical fiction topic, but today I thought we would give you the chance to do the searching. So you can visit www.kittl.co. It will be included in the assignment, and you can type in your historical event into the search. You can see here that I've typed in World War II Denmark because that's the topic of Number of the Stars. And after you do that, you can scroll through the choices and see which ones answer your question. So, depending on your topic, a lot of different websites will come up, and you can check all of them out and see, based on the questions that you come up with, which ones provide you with the answers. So, what's today's assignment? Well, as you're reading, I hope that you've thought of some questions and some things that you want to learn more about. You may have done a little bit of that on Thursday, but today you're going to think of the questions on your own. Things like with the handkerchief and Number of the Stars that really resonated with me and that I wanted to research a little bit further. Now, I want you to keep in mind the questions that you wrote and do some online research on that kittl.co that I mentioned on the last slide about the time period in which your book takes place. And I want you then to go back and reread parts of your story with the new information in mind. Your jots today are going to be on slide 33, and you're going to write about what you learned and whether your questions were answered. Maybe you came up with new questions as you were reading, but I want you to give us some details really about what you learned about this historical time period. Happy reading and happy researching.